What is up, YouTube? Today we are doing part 3 of homemade lathe. Now, in part 1 and 2, I got the bed ready, I got it all clear. I built most of the carriage, I built the carriage. I'm now working on the cross slide. The next thing to do is bolt this giant piece onto here, and then after that, I can work on the cross slide thing, which is this, and this is going to be sliding back and forth. Once I get that, on here, then I can work on the compound slide. That's going to be here, and that's going to be the most difficult part because it's going to be small, and I have to make it small and work, perfect, so that's going to be a little difficult. So that's going to probably take a lot more time than I hope. So let's get started. This first things first is let's bolt this piece onto here. Alright, so for the first step, I need to drill one bolt and tap it. Then I can put it on here and figure out exactly where it's going to go. So therefore, because this thing has to be perfectly 90 degrees. If it's not perfectly 90 degrees, my cuts on a piece of steel will not be perfectly 90 degrees. So this I cannot screw up, and it has to be 100% perfect because I cannot readjust this. So first step is, and I think I'm going to go half an inch in by half an inch in on the side pieces, so 0.5. Mark it. Alright, let's drill that. Alright, so now that I have this whole thing on here, the reason I'm not bolting down this whole thing yet, I'm only doing one of them, is because in case this thing is off, I can just scoot it to where exactly I need it, and the only true way I can figure out if this isn't perfectly 90 degrees is to cut or to turn a piece in the chuck. So therefore I need to finish the cross slide piece, whatever this part's called, that slides right here. I need to finish this, get the side pieces on, then I can figure out how in the world I'm doing the compound slide. And I know I'm repeating myself, but this is all very confusing and Alright, so I just got this done. Drilled the 6 holes and tapped them. Got this thing almost done. Now that I have this basically figured out, now I can focus on building the compound slide. That's the part that is able to rotate and still goes back and forth. So I've already figured out a general idea of the bottom plate. It's going to be that big. It's going to be right there. And so at first I thought I was going to at first use the 5/8 thick steel and try and cut. What I'm going to try and do is, hang on, see how this has these like 45-degree angles, and that's how it's able to connect the bottom piece to the top. I'm going to try and do that instead of going straight down and going underneath it. I'm going to try and do the 45 style with the compound slide. At first I was thinking about grinding it into here, but that's a little too much. It's a little too hard. So what I'm going to do is use the 1/2 inch. I'm going to make a bottom piece this size. I'm going to make a top piece that bolts onto here, and then that's going to have the 45, and then I'm going to have another piece on top of that. That's the part that's going to be sliding back and forth. So first need to cut out this piece out of the 1/2 inch, and then I'll cut another piece out of the 1/2 inch, and then the top piece out of the 1/2 inch. The reason I was thinking about doing 2 of the 5/8 first is because I didn't want this thing to be too high. But I measured it, and I may have to add some height because I want to make this a little bit taller, and just so we have more clearance on the bottom, so I have more height to play with. So I'm able to use 3 of the 1/2 inch thick steel plates to make the compound slide. So the next thing to do is just a lot of cutting, a lot of grinding, a lot of using this thing, and truing up corners and all that fun stuff. So let's get started. Alright, so now that I have these 3 pieces of steel, basically how this is going to work is this is the compound slide, this is the part that rotates, and one of these is going to be bolted to the bottom, the other part is going to be the part that slides back and forth. Now I'm going to, using this thing, going to cut a V groove into here, and then same thing on the bottom piece, and then take a 1/8 inch steel plate, bolt it to one of them, and that's how I'm going to allow one of these to slide back and forth. Now that I've got these 3 pieces done, I generally know how high I now need to put the headstock. So let's take a break on all that stuff, and let's now work on the headstock. So I already figured out that I need 2 pieces that are 3 3/8 inch thick or long, and then I need a 9 inch piece. So I'm going to take that giant 5/8 piece of steel to my class, have them cut it on the bandsaw, bring it back, and tack weld it onto here, bring this whole thing to my school, and then fully weld it with their stick welder. So got that figured out. Now I think we should also mount the lathe chuck to this piece so I can bring it there and weld this piece to the axle. So therefore we can drill the holes in the whole headstock and do all that process. So so yeah, let's figure out where in the world I need to drill the 3 holes, and so I can bolt this piece onto here. Alright, so I bolted this piece onto here, and all I basically had to do is I found little bolts that fit in the chuck, cut the heads off, and then I stuck them in my drill, turned them around, and ground the points in them. Then I just screwed them into the chuck, took the plate out on top of it, hammered it down, and it pinpointed where I needed to drill. Drilled the holes, and this thing's on now. Now I have to take it to my class and TIG weld here, and then take this off and TIG weld on the bottom side. Then once I get that done, then I can cut this part off, so therefore I can put stuff on the chuck. So yeah, that's awesome. That works. And also I'm gonna bring this piece in there so I can cut it. then we can focus on building the lathe headstock.